Hey guys, and today what we're going to be talking about is everything wrong with Battlefield 1 on a historical standpoint. Now, as everybody knows, this is the trailer, and I might play it again at the very end, but first we're going to start off with several of the guns. Now, most of the guns are pretty much fine. We have the trench guns, we have some of the machine guns, we have the MG08, we have the MP18, the 1911, but the first thing that I found wrong with this game was the MP18. Now the MP18 was introduced in 1918, and it was only primarily used in the very end of the war. And only 5,000 were made, and pretty much they did not serve much of a purpose in the war because that they came so late, and pretty much they only came at the very end of the war and right after the war. And pretty much other than after that, it was adopted by the Chinese and turned into the MP28. Another thing I found wrong was the Lewis M1914. Now this is going to be, all of these are probably going to be used in the game. It was designed in 1911 and it was produced in 1913 to 1942. Now it was produced by the BSA and it was produced during World War I. The major difference between what it's going to be used in the game and what it was going to be, then how it is going to be used in real life is, one, it was not a very fast firing machine gun. It only used 7.92 by 57 millimeter rounds, and it was, a lot of it was used by trucks and light tanks, and we're going to get to light tanks and the planes later, but for now we're just focusing on the guns. And it was basically, like I said, fitted for armored cars and a couple patrols against German patrols. Sorry, it seems like a fire alarm went off. That's not mine. But other than that, I mean, it wasn't really mounted onto the planes till pretty much later in the World War in 1914 and 1915. And pretty much that is going to be it for that. So where you see these guys, where you saw in the video where the guy was walking and shooting that gun in real life, that would not be possible because it used a team of men to operate anything like that. Now the MG08, what I found another problematic thing with that, it is a stationary weapon and it was primarily used through the war. Now I don't know how the gameplay is going to turn out, but this gun was a very heavy gun. Let alone, granted, it was a very accurate gun, but it was very, very heavy gun, and it also overheated really fast. It could be operated from cover or without cover. And pretty much other than that, besides overheating, you would need to prevent the overheating, you would need to pour water on it to keep it cool, and even then sometimes it would still overheat. Now probably in the game what I'm going to say is it's not going to overheat. I doubt it will overheat. And this gun was also used in aircrafts, but I'll get to that later. The problem I have with that is it's probably in the game. The problem with the game is going to be it's going to be operated by one, maybe two people, but that is it. When in reality, these machine guns needed a team to handle these weapons. Now, pretty much other than that, I mean, we have our basic 1911 guns, the Mauser, yada yada. Now, moving on to the tanks. Now, the tanks were first deployed by the British Mark. By the British, it was known as the British Mark I. Now, I can guarantee you the tanks in the game are going to drive faster than only a couple miles an hour. These tanks were not fitted with pretty much almost any type of artillery during most of the war. If they were, there was very light artillery and they could be taken down pretty simply. They were mainly just fitted with machine guns, LMGs, and pretty much they only, like I said, they only went a few miles an hour. Even then, they had a tendency to break down and other stuff like that. So they did play an impact on the war, but not as much as you probably thought. They did help with taking over trenches, though. Another problem I have is the planes. The planes in that video, you saw those planes flying around, pretty much doing aerobatics and stuff, and that is probably the biggest problem I've ever seen with any type of historical game, pretty much almost to date. In reality, the biplanes on both sides were not very fast. They only went about 100 miles an hour, and that is actually quite slow compared to even in World War II. The planes, by near the end of that war, were averaging several hundreds of miles an hour. Now, most of them were probably only reaching 300. The bombers were reaching 200, but we're not in World War II, we're in World War I. And those planes, not until pretty much almost midway through the war to later through the war, they were fitted with a stationary machine gun. Now, that stationary machine gun was for dogfights. They did have the rear-mounted machine guns, but that wasn't used till very close to the very end of the war. And they didn't do mainly like dive bombing and stuff, and you know they weren't mainly designed for that. They can't dive bomb. I'm just gonna say that right now. And also, they could not fly upside down or sideways for the most part, besides just turning. And that is the reason, because of that is the way that they were designed. The biplanes and the triplanes in that era had those 2 or 3 wings because they needed to be stable, and we didn't have the technology back then to be able to do acrobatic stunts such as sideways, upside down, rolling over, other stuff like that. Also, flamethrowers, I don't have much of a problem with them. I think I might actually go back to the planes, because I think I thought about something. Yeah, flamethrowers, I don't have much of a problem about them, but they did have a very low capacity, so you weren't able to do very much flamethrower-wise. So they're probably gonna have it so you can use them for longer, and also if they were shot, they would explode and you were dead instantly. Other than that, we have the usual game mechanics of medics and heal yourself, but that's a given because in like most games, that's how it's going to be, and I don't mind it, and you shouldn't mind that. Back to the planes, also because of the planes, what else I have a problem with the planes is they were shot down very easily. And by that I mean they are made of canvas and wood. Pretty much think of your bed sheet and a bunch of your bed sheets and some balsa wood that you got at, I don't know, Home Depot or whatever, and you just made a plane out of it. Don't you think it would be shot down very easily? Yes, it would. This plane would be shot down extremely easily, and they were mainly used for reconnaissance. They were not combat planes at the beginning of the war. Now, that being said, this is a video game. They're going to do what they like, but a lot of this stuff in World War I, if you're going to do World War I, do it correctly. The submachine guns didn't really play a role because they were not used till later in the war. And even then, they were used in very small amounts, and not many people had them, and it was only a specialized person that had them. And running, it's probably going to be dry ground. A lot of it's going to be dry ground, which was not true in World War One, excuse me. It was a lot of mucky ground and you're barely moving. There are diseases. Last problem I have is the mustard gas and the gas mask. Now, the mustard gas I have no problem with. It's the gas mask to combat the mustard gas. Now, the gas masks in World War One were not very extremely effective. They would only be effective for a certain amount of time, then they would pretty much become useless. Also, if you did not know, the way mustard gas works is it gets into your system and basically destroys your lungs, and you can't breathe, and it just burns you up and you die. There is no recovering from mustard gas. You can recover from mustard gas if you are lucky enough, but in most instances, pretty much, let's say about 75% of the time, you are a dead man if you did not have your gas mask on and keep your body covered with the mustard gas coming in. Pretty much, guys, that's going to be it of the video. That's what I found wrong with Battlefield 1. If you find anything else wrong, please leave it in the description below. And I might make another video of everything more wrong with Battlefield 1 or whatever. Other than that, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell your friends about me, and y'all have a good one.